I want you to start by recognizing how many times in a day you say you're sorry. Keep a tally. I challenge you. I was shocked to find out how many times I was unnecessarily apologizing throughout the day. Hi there, welcome to Sunny with a Chance of Chaos. I'm Lindsay, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. So grab a coffee, get comfy, and get ready for a little bit of chaos and a whole lot of sunshine. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so excited to get into today's topic. I think there are quite a few people who might be interested to hear about this topic. So, okay, as most of you know, this podcast comes out of Canada, and as we also know, historically, Canadians are often portrayed somewhat comically as over-apologizers. I have a canvas tote bag with a Canadian flag on it, and in giant letters, it simply says the word sorry. It's a thing. It's a thing here. And I don't know if it was a result of being raised in this stereotypically apologetic country, or if it was my default setting of people pleaser, or a combo of both. But I definitely became an over apologizer. I am super interested in talking about this with all of you because I have come to understand that there is such a fine line between apologizing and making yourself small. There is a fine line between apologizing and making yourself small. I want to find that sweet spot where we can all be respectful of others and kind to others, but also be a fully embodied version of ourselves and take up the space we're meant to take up in the world. So that's the small thing we're going to tackle today. No problem, right? The concept of over-apologizing can be applied to a number of different scenarios in our lives. In this episode, I'm not talking about the sorry that is applied when you accidentally bump into someone with your grocery cart. In my opinion, that warrants an excuse me or an I'm sorry, just as like a human courtesy, if we have done something wrong, whether by accident or on purpose. We should offer some remorse or an apology or some repair. If our actions have caused another person injury, whether emotional or physical, saying we're sorry makes sense. And I'll revisit the 3-part apology that I talked about in another episode that makes that sorry authentic and meaningful. I'll talk about that later on in the episode because I think it's helpful. But for now, hold please, because what I really want to get into here are the types of apologies we make for simply existing. The apologies we make for our opinions, our appearance, our choices, our likes and our dislikes, our needs, our wants, our existence. These are the apologies that require a shift and perhaps some unlearning and some rewiring. Why are we chronically begging for pardon? Why are we expressing regret and saying sorry for simply being who we are? I don't want us to do that anymore. So let's talk about why we do it and how we're going to do differently. There were 2 key moments in my adult life where I learned that an apology is not always the right move, even though my default position my whole life has always been to be polite and be likable and apologetic and take up just the right amount of acceptable space in social settings. So this is the first moment. It came when I was about 21. I was at an OHL hockey game with my dad, and I ran into an old friend while my dad and I were heading to our seats. So my dad was made to wait for me while I caught up with this old friend for a couple minutes. I would say it was about 3 to 5 minutes max of me chatting with this person, and therefore like 3 to 5 minutes of my dad waiting for me. When I caught back up to him, I was like overflowing with apologies. I'm so sorry. I just hadn't seen her in so long. We used to work together. It was so great to see her and I wanted to catch up and I'm so sorry. And he looked at me and he said, "Why are you apologizing? Stop apologizing. Instead, try thanking me for my time." Well, 21-year-old Lindsay was super confused. She was so confused. Why would I thank you? And he went on to explain that in that instance, When someone is made to wait for you because you got held up or you had an opportunity to make a connection with an old friend, instead of saying, I'm sorry for taking up space in the world and being an inconvenience to you, which makes you small, he suggested I say something along the lines of, thank you for waiting while I did that thing. It was important to me and I appreciate your time. This is a totally different vibe. In fact, it's almost a completely different message altogether. My mind was blown. In the first instance, we are expressing regret and borderline shame for having needs and wants in the world. But in the second instance, we're saying thank you to our people for helping us get what we need and want. I'm obsessed with this way of thinking now, and I have tried to remember to use it as much as I could over the last 20 some odd years. However, since learning that day at the game, my ability to integrate this message into my interactions has ebbed and flowed. I have forgotten it from time to time, and eventually I did sink back into the old habits of apologizing for taking up space. It happens. And we can always forgive ourselves for these setbacks. We are imperfect and the learning curve can be long. So we just try again. And we try again, and we try again, and we try again. Like this. Around the holidays this year, I was at a fairly formal party. The way we know it was formal was because Lindsay was uncharacteristically not wearing Blundstones. I had on heels, which if you know me, you will know is a rare occasion, and that tells you it was a fancy party. So I'm at this party with mostly folks I didn't know. However, I had arrived at the party with a very good and long-time friend of mine. So the two of us drifted and divided and chatted with new people separately for a time. And when my drink was empty, I went over to where he was in conversation with someone I didn't know to see if they wanted anything from the bar. So I walked up to them and I said, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I'm heading to the bar. Do you want me to get you another drink? His answer was yes. So the guy he was talking to, both of them were like, yeah, sure, thanks. And I nodded and I started to back away and I repeated again, I'm so sorry for interrupting, carry on. And then I walked to the bar. And when I got back with our drinks, my friend pulled me aside and said, don't you ever do that. Ever. Never apologize for taking up space like that. You made yourself so small. I came to this party with you, and you have as much right as anyone to be here and be having conversation. You add value to this space. You do not take away from it. And I was really taken aback. I didn't really understand at first, and then I replayed the scene in my mind. So picture me, shoulders up at my ears, stooped over a little, kowtowing in highly uncomfortable heels, no less, making myself small and polite so no one will think I'm rude or overbearing. And I'm doing all of this in order to offer an act of kindness and service to my friend and this other dude at the party to go get them a drink at the bar. What? The actual Lindsay, it only took me a hot second and then something shifted massively. The message finally sank in. It integrated, if you will. And I grew a couple inches once it did. This was the same message I had received at that hockey game when I was 21. Take up space. Don't apologize for being you. Don't apologize for existing. Don't apologize for having needs. Ask for what you want. Instead of saying sorry for asking what you want or what you need, what you deserve, ask for it and then show gratitude for what other people offer you in return. And also, you have value, and let's be real, people might actually want you to interrupt them so that you can go and get them a drink at the bar. Like, you're doing them a service, so why are you apologizing? I am 45 and I am still learning this lesson, and that's okay. I will keep practicing until I replace sorry for existing with thanks for supporting my existence. I'll keep practicing that until I get it right. So why do we do this? Why do we over apologize, and what can we do to change it? There are so many reasons why saying sorry is a knee-jerk reaction. One of them could just be because you're Canadian. That's not your fault. That's fine. There's a few other more somber reasons why we might find ourselves over apologizing. I'll list a few of them here. Number 1, low self-worth. Folks who don't think they have worth and value in the world may apologize simply for being, because they don't see that their existence has meaning and benefit to other people. So if they see themselves as less valuable, they will often apologize for taking up space in the world, as they believe that space is maybe better suited to someone who really deserves it. And this breaks my heart. I remember when I was writing this part of the podcast before I recorded it, I was swallowing back tears as I typed this sentence, because I just wish that people knew how awesome they really are and how much value they really hold in the world. Second reason, number 2, perfectionism. People who feel they need to be perfect are often prone to over-apologizing. Their threshold for their own tolerance of their errors or mistakes is much, much lower than the tolerance of other people's imperfections. They may over-apologize because they're never actually really able to meet their own unrealistic expectations of themselves. Number 3 is fear of judgment. People may apologize for their needs and wants as a way to protect themselves from the judgment of others. And this might show up in the form of a lot of self-deprecation. This mentality of, if I make fun of myself first, I'll get ahead of it and I'll be in on the joke rather than be the joke. Number 4, aversion to conflict. So apologies come fast and furious from people who are conflict avoidant. If you have asked for a favor from your spouse because you're too tired, let's say something simple like, please empty the dishwasher, and you get pushback from your spouse and you yourself are conflict avoidant, chances are your default move will be to apologize for asking for what you needed and just empty the damn dishwasher yourself in order to stave off any further argument or discomfort. That is over apologizing in the face of conflict avoidance. Trauma response, number 5. This one ties into all 4 of the other reasons, and I am no trauma expert, so I'm only going to touch on this very lightly. But folks who have experienced trauma or abuse or neglect, they may have an ingrained apology button that they press in order to avoid conflict, take up less space, make themselves small, people please, be seen as agreeable, simply in order to keep themselves literally safe from emotional or physical harm. And these patterns from their previous traumas are often hardwired and they're difficult to break. How do we move away from this habit? How do we break the pattern of apologizing for our needs and wants and for simply being human? There's a few ways I found that helped me when I was doing this work to stop over apologizing and just start being. It's a work in progress, but the strategies have helped tremendously, along with the verbal ass kicking I got from my friend at the fancy party. That helped too. Okay, number 1, you're going to start tracking it. I want you to start by recognizing how many times in a day you say you're sorry. Keep a tally. I challenge you. I was shocked to find out how many times I was unnecessarily apologizing throughout the day. At one of my worst sorry seasons in my life, legit, this was one of them, I would call someone and they would answer the phone. They picked up the phone and answered my call, and I would start the conversation with, "Hi, I'm so sorry to bug you." Really? They answered the phone. That's on them. If they picked up, it's not your responsibility to apologize for taking their time. They are autonomous and they can make their own choices. And they would not have answered the phone if they were unable to do so. So if your phone call was going to be bugging them, they shouldn't have answered the phone. See how ridiculous this apology is? I'm actually embarrassed about this one. I'm actually a little bit embarrassed about this one. Anyway, keep track. Are you apologizing simply for existing? And if so, how often are you doing it? Notice it, name it, keep track of the incidences. As you start to improve upon it, I want you to compare those numbers. It helps when you can see evidence that you're making progress. It's awesome. Number 2, pause and consider. Before you speak, just pause and think. When you feel that apology dancing on your lips for something that is no fault of yours, for example, traffic was awful, I'm so sorry for keeping you waiting, just stop. Just think. Is this mine to own? Apology is ownership of behavior. After all, that's what apology is. And if you didn't cause the traffic delay, don't apologize for it. If you find yourself apologizing for a need you have, for example, you're going through a rough time in your relationship and you're leaning harder on your friends than normal, you find yourself on the phone saying, sorry, I've made this all about me again. I'm sorry, I'm so needy right now. Again, they've chosen to be there. They love and care for you. And chances are they want to be there to support you. So stop and just pause and just consider, have I done anything inherently wrong here? And if the answer is no, it either wasn't any fault of yours or you're simply being a human with needs, then don't apologize. Number 3, lean into gratitude. You're going to have a hard time with not apologizing, especially if you're a chronic I'm sorry person like I was. I don't expect you to go cold turkey here. Let's find some other ways to show our appreciation for the people who are waiting for us or supporting us or spending their time on us. Let's lean into gratitude here. So try saying, thanks for waiting. What a mess the roads were this morning. Or, I'm so grateful for your time on the phone today. I really needed that. Or, I appreciate our friendship so much. It's such a gift to have someone I can lean in on during this insane time. Gratitude is a perfect and wonderful and beautiful replacement for apology. And this is why. It eliminates that general vibe that you are too much. You're an inconvenience, that you're small and meek. It shows people that you value yourself. It helps people see that you're confident enough not to own what's not yours to own. Secondly, people love being seen and appreciated. So instead of making yourself feel small by apologizing, gratitude actually helps them feel big and seen and appreciated. And when we show gratitude, people are much more likely to help us out again when we need them or forgive us for being late when it wasn't within our control. Let's go back to the times when it actually does make sense to apologize. There are ways that you can do it well to ensure that it's genuine, it has meaning, and it actually creates repair. Here's a few examples. If you've hurt someone's feelings by checking your Instagram feed in the middle of a story they're telling, or forgetting a lunch date you set, or accidentally running over their garbage bins while backing out of their driveway. Yep. I have a lot of experience with each of these examples. If we have done anything like this, there's a 3-part apology format that can help make repair quickly and, most importantly, authentically. Let's take the example of checking your phone while someone's talking directly to you. Number 1, say you're sorry and state what went wrong. This is important. It's key for the person to know exactly what it is that you're feeling remorse about. So I would say something like, I'm so sorry for interrupting our conversation by checking my phone. Secondly, you're going to ask if they're okay and how they're feeling. The answer to this will obviously vary greatly depending on whether or not you crush the recycling bin for the 3rd time or hurt their feelings by not being a good listener. And lastly, you're going to state what you'll do differently in the future to ensure this type of hurt doesn't happen again. So for example, I would say, I'm going to put my phone on silent and I'm going to put it in the other room so it doesn't distract me while we're talking together. I see this a lot in teaching as well, actually. Kids throw the word sorry around as a band-aid for all their wrongdoings, and it's losing its meaning. If you have kids or nieces or nephews, or you work with kids at all, model this authentic 3-part apology for them, understanding why they're apologizing and what they can do better next time will go a long way to creating fully formed humans who are accountable for their actions and, most importantly, authentic in their repair. I'm going to finish this off by saying this. The word sorry holds a lot of power. It has the power to diminish, and it has the power to enhance both relationships and people. Please use it wisely. Please do not overuse sorry, and certainly never use it to apologize simply for being you. Your big takeaway today, friends, is you are not an apology. All right, in the stacks today, I have 2 very, very different resources. The first one is The Power of Apology by Beverly Engel, and it actually focuses in on how apology can repair relationships. So it's a little bit more about that authentic apology and how to do it well and do it in a genuine way. The other one is more along the lines of over apologizing. It came out of Forbes.com, and it's an article that's actually about over apologizing at work. I know I only really focused on the social side of things here, but it's called Why Over Apologizing Can Destroy Your Confidence at Work and How to Avoid It. And it was really interesting, actually. I learned a lot about how sorry can kind of diminish you in your workplace. It was interesting. All right, the gratitude section this week. I have to extend my gratitude to the folks who have tried to help me stop over apologizing and just take up some space over the years. There's a series, hold please, R, B, M, K, J, E, and S. All of those folks have played a huge role in helping support me to stop over apologizing. And I could not be more grateful for them supporting that ever-evolving process. Because of you folks, I feel better than ever about the space I take up. And I certainly would not be able to put myself out there in a podcast without the lessons you've taught me about taking up space. So guess what? I'm not going to say sorry for taking up the last 20 minutes of your life. Instead, I'm going to say thank you for being here. Okay, see you next time. Bye.